Greetings, everyone. So, first of all, I want to welcome everybody who's going to partake in this great round table. My name is Chief Fode Ajamu Mansoure, also known as Mansour Fode Ajamu, which is just another variant of the same name. Um, of course, this is Jicho La Kimbunga, Brotherhood. We present to you the Afrikan Survival Initiative. This is the post-election roundtable. We're going to have a dynamic discussion today, but like always, we don't start without getting the blessings of our ancestors through our elder. And so first, I'd like to bring our own President General, Achille Nkrumah, to the table to call the ancestors name. Thank you.
What's up, family? It is truly tradition to always remember the ancestors, those who have gone before us, because that's how we will continue to move to pave the way. I would like to call the Honorable Marxim Sai Garvey to this conversation. I believe his spirit will add tremendously to the discussion that we have to have. I want to call Charles L. James, a former President General, Thomas W. Harvey, a former President General. I want to call a brother Amos Wilson because his contributions is insurmountable. I want to reach all the way to the continent of Africa and call Queen Nzinga, call Sister Hashisa. I want us to understand that we do nothing without the sisters. They are the strength, they are the way. That's how it begins. I also want you to realize we call Queen Mother Moore. We call Sister Amy Jacques Garvey, Amy Ashford Garvey. I want us to call queens, and I want you to call your own personal ancestors because they help guide you. And therefore, that's the guidance that we take as we move forward. So in the name of the Most High, we move forward. I say.
All right. So we're going to get right into it. Thanks, PG. Again, this is the Afrikan Survival Initiative, and this conversation here will be the post-election roundtable. We have a dynamic panel who's here to discuss this, and we're just going to open up the mic. Also, if you have any questions out there, you want to chime in on the discussion, you can, I guess, make it in the comment section, and we can address it later on in the discussion. But I don't want to waste any time with this. This is a very, very hot topic. Um, and just to pretext it, we'll be asking some questions based on what are our expectations now. Now that Donald Trump has won the U.S. election, what are our expectations within the next 2 years? What kind of policies can we foresee? What kind of attacks on the black community can we foresee? What kind of opportunities for the black community do we foresee? Let's have this discussion, you know. So with me today, I have, of course, we got Shakara backstage. Shout out to Shakara. But coming to have the discussion, we have Baba Senghor Baye, PG Achille Nkrumah, which you just seen. We have Baba FM, straight out of Brooklyn. We got Baba IG, straight out of Harlem, New York. We got Brother Sam P.K. Collins, T, by way of Liberia. What's up, brothers?
Peace, brother.
Grand Rising.
Yeah, thanks.
That's it.
All right. They gonna freezing up.
We can still hear you.
Am I freezing up over here?
No, you're
Oh,
good.
you're good.
I'm all right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
Mm. Might be his connection.
Well, we have some idea of how this conversation is going to go. Chief will be back, I'm sure. It's the post-election conversation, and we want to kind of delve into how we see this impacting Africa as one, African people here in the Americas as two. And you know, I say put 1, 2, and then African people throughout the world as a number 3. And I'm sure some of the hard questions that was put together will be brought forth. There he is, Brother Chief is back. So I'll toss it right back to you.
Oh man. Technology.
Hey, it's not ours.
Yeah.
One day it will be ours.
Right.
One of the
Exactly.
conversations that part of the conversation that we had earlier, and I know Baba Fem, you have time, was how this new structure would impact Africa. And so, at a point in this conversation, I want to read it to you from the pages of Project 2025, exactly how they view the world, as well as how they view the Caribbean and other parts of the world, because they took their time and laid out their Mayan code. The Americans they now have to deal with it. So one of the things, of course, it deals with Africa in different sections. You got the Middle East and North Africa as one section. Yeah, they break it up, and they they have the Sub-Saharan Africa, and then they want to talk about how they're going to shift strategies. I think it's important that as we move forward, we kind of delve into what they actually said. So when you're ready for that part of the conversation, we'll get right to it. And then for us here in the Americas, for those of us who are still here, I think that's going to be one of those hard fought questions that we need to deal with as part of this roundtable. So I'm going to pass it to Brother Afem to see where his mind is on this thought process as to how it relates to us here in the Americas.
So can y'all hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. So, my my place is as you brothers know, as far as Esbet is concerned and the Amos Wilson legacy and his writings, um, you know, Baba Amos was always about strategy, and he was always about critical analysis, and he was always about honestly, shoring up and understanding the circumstances. And one of the things that hit me like a bolt out of the blue when the orange dude won was that we have run out of time. It really hit me in my head. It was like we are out of time. There's no more playing with anything that we're doing anymore. And my you know whether it's on the motherland or in the Americas or elsewhere in the world, my focus now is really in shoring up our mental fortitude, our psychological fortitude to be able to go through whatever is coming down the pike. Because even though we've got the manifesto of 2025, um, when these effects start rolling out, my big concern is how Black folks are going to weather the storm. Now,
Mm,
it's very interesting. I was speaking to a sister, Sister Marika, who's a part of SFET, who I forgot what country she comes from, but she lived in a country that had a dictator ruler before. And I was speaking to her about Project 2025 and what's going on now. And she kind of laughed. She's like, yeah, yeah, I know, I know. She says, I've lived under dictators before, so I kind of understand the flavor of what's going to be coming down the pike. So some of us already have a level of resilience and familiarity with how dictators roll, but then there's a lot of us who don't. A lot of us who don't, when things get turned upside down, how are we going to react? It's almost like going into battle and you've never gone into battle before. It's like you might have had a little bit of basic training, but you've never been shot at. You never, had someone with a bayonet at your throat. So part of where I'm thinking and where I'm coming from is to really make efforts to shore up the brother and sisterhood to be mentally prepared for the multifaceted madness that's going to be coming down. Even basic stresses of I can't get food stamps anymore. I can't access the hospital anymore. I can't, even without, the brown shirts coming to your door and pulling you out, even just the basic day to day things are going to like flip people's heads and they're going to freak out. So I'm really concerned about the psychological impact of that and helping to mitigate that in some sort of way through my work and through those of us in SPED who can help in that endeavor.
So as a result of this, America actually deciding to be America. That's kind of like let's make it real.
Oh yeah,
America decided to
oh
be America. This
oh
this
yeah,
this action was what was desired when they had the Civil War. And although we keep trying to make it about us, it really was about the nation. It wasn't about us. We was just what do you call it, a casualty of the war, and they realized that they needed us to make a difference. So this mentality now that we're going to have to cope with is saying, are you ready for America to be America? Are you ready
absolutely.
for them to no longer care for you and prostitute themselves by saying, we really got to look after for the other folks and we got to take care of folks? That's about to change. So with that change at hand and the mentality of being prepared, you're right, it's hard to get prepared for something you don't believe is coming.
This is true. That's very well put. Very well put. So on that note, I realized that not everybody's going to listen to what we got to say in SPED. Not everyone's going to listen to Amos. Like Amos has been warning about this kind of stuff
Mm-hmm.
like 30 years ago, and
Mm-hmm.
more. And a lot of our other prophets and
Mm-hmm.
teachers, John Henry Clark warned about it, and
Mm-hmm.
lots of folks warned about it. So I also realized that some of us are going to fall through the cracks, and I've always known that. So basically, brothers, I'm just saying that I just got to do, we got to do our best with what we got in that spec. But I don't want people losing their minds, because if you lose your mind, you lose your heart. And if you don't have your heart, you can't fight. It's like you brothers know what it's like to box or fight or do martial arts. It's like sometimes you get tagged real good and you lose your heart, the fight is over.
Right.
So we can't have too many of us falling by the wayside of panic because they're already too far up the white man's behind, looking for the white man to save them and to provide everything for them. This is why I said when that election results came in, I was like, we're out of time. We're out of time.
Right. It's a done deal at this point. Chief, you're back. I'll toss it back to you. We're just trying to keep the conversation live.
Yeah, can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. So appreciate y'all for filling that in. I'm having a little technical difficulty here in Freetown. I don't know what's going on. But I want to go into the first table topic that we agreed on to discuss. And I just want to throw the reminder out there that this discussion is not about let me say our personal opinions, but we want to engage in the conversation to to give the people something to think about. Give the
Mm-hmm.
people the facts, give them the real truth. It's okay to disagree in this conversation with the people and keep it real with ourselves and having it. So the first of the topics was what war or wars can be expected for America in the next 2 years in terms of like for the black community, for the African world,
In the next
wars and global crises that we need to really um, anticipate and prepare
one,
for. That we
one
can
of the
look right
things.
now and say, oh yeah, we're going to have to deal with that. For instance, we know we're going to have to deal with the United States policy against the AES. They must develop some position or some policy against the AES. We know that. But what about the Sudan? What about Chad? There's been some breakthroughs in Chad. Let's talk about the inner cities of America, even the struggles in London. So just throw the conversation out there. What kind of warfare can we look forward to in the immediate now that Donald Trump is the president of the United States of America? Is it going to be any change,
Yes.
or what can we expect?
There's going to be quite a bit of change. I'm going to push it first to talking about the African continent. They lump Africa in PG Project 2025. They put the Western Hemisphere nations, including those in the Caribbean, arguably have stronger cultural and historical ties to the United States than most countries and regions in the world. Yet Central and South America are moving rapidly into the sphere of anti-American external state actors, including PRC, Iran, and Russia. Specific countries in the Americas, such as Venezuela, Colombia, Guyana, and Ecuador, are either increasingly regionally security threats in their own rights or are vulnerable to hostile extra continental powers. The U.S. has an opportunity to lead those democratic neighbors to fight against the external pressures of threats from abroad and address local regional security concerns. If you stop and take that at its point, it's telling you that we have to make sure we coordinate and conduct those countries that are within our in this hemisphere so that they have a different relationship or we begin to dominate and control them. That's external. Internally, America is also suggesting that by removing particularly the Department of Education and other pieces that sit in place to help make the conditions that we kind of got used to in America, they're going to take that away from you too. When they start taking these things away from you, it begins to, like Brother Afam had pointed out, you start kind of like losing your mind because you're not ready for this battle. So we have to talk about the reality of the battles. This election, as I said earlier, America has decided we're going to take off. They took off the sheet so you can see who they are, and they will function the same as they did when they wore the sheet.
I mean, it wasn't even just them though. It was, you had the Latinos, of course,
Yep.
and you had people within, you had Africans on this side, people of different
Mm-hmm.
nationalities and ethnicities that really bought into that. So
Yes.
it's a recalibration, it's a
Uh-huh.
reshuffling of the pecking order, and Walter Rodney talked about that because of the whole color spectrum. Blackness isn't just about melanin, or whiteness isn't. It's about class. It's about resource accumulation. It's about status. So anybody who feels like they want to connect to whiteness or connect to what they think Donald Trump has, they're gonna take that. The
Uh-huh.
the Democrats, they played the identity card too hard, and like they didn't really focus on the whole day to day situations that people were experiencing. And in terms of what to expect with this whole Donald Trump situation, I really feel sorry. Not feel sorry, but I really feel for people who depend on the education department. People with special education needs, the IEPs.
Yep.
Because it's them, and it's also the Pell Grant recipients. They're gonna,
Lose.
yeah, they're gonna lose out. The Supreme Court, conservatives all throughout the Biden administration, they've been tackling higher education. And
Yep.
that's been like the playmaker, even with the whole talk about trades now. That's been the playmaker. And as far as internationally, I'll stop here after this. Um, just going back to Chief's question, it's very interesting because the U.S. spent the last 4 years repairing relationships that Trump had already soured during his administration. So with the way that things are going now, I kind of question how the Trump administration will go about its relationships if it's even going to try to compete with China and Russia for that piece of the pot. But I do see them doing it, but I don't see Trump being as diplomatic going about it. So it could sort of ruin it again and give the Chinese and the Russians more room to move in, or can make some sort of opportunity for BRICS to be stronger. But we as African people, we got to be on our stuff. Like, whether Trump won or whether Biden won or whoever won, we should always be working. Like it should be
Right.
something that's consistent. What are we building as far as institutions? The only people, and I promise to stop here. I did kind of jump all over the place, but one last point I want to make is, a lot of our black professionals, speaking as a millennial, because we are like, as far as educationally, we've accumulated the most degrees since like Reconstruction or since like civil rights, PhDs and all that, like our generation. So the black professional class, the brothers and the sisters, particularly the sisters, as soon as Kamala lost, they started talking about withdrawing and doing this and that. Like it's that sort of energy that, not saying that we got to chase them, but we got to channel that energy where people are finally seeing it for what it is. But we got to provide an alternative. So the question is, what types of institutions are we building? Because by the end of the day, it's a competition of resources, not necessarily ideals, because we, the 0.5%, the ideals move us. But there are people who are living hand to foot, they robbing Peter to pay Paul, they're not really in love with that. They're in love with getting their resources met. So how are we doing that in this age? That's how we got to come, together and really uh reason on. And I'll stop there.
Look,
Mm.
you were saying you'll stop there. Don't, hopefully that you do continue to contribute, because one of the things that's excellent in pointing out was how many people from the black and brown entity that absolutely participated and helped make this domino start to fall. Also, as you said with the sisters, and I've heard too from a lot of the professional sisters that say, hey, we're going to pull back and wait. Well, you really can't pull back and wait. If you don't get into it and get to work and putting things together, those folks that you just talked about that are going to be losing out based on educational, a Department of Education being removed, they're not going to be helpful. And yes, the generation, you said millennials. And so we know they got the millennials and Generation Z. And that Generation Z, which is probably a little younger, just a little younger than you, my brother Sam, they too are degreed. And that's another set of energy that we have to lock in and begin to try to navigate with them in the direction that we need to go.
And Baba, if I may, I point out those generations because
Yeah.
the reason why the sisters and in particular that were behind Kamala, the reason why they're pulling out is because they they grew up a bit removed from civil rights and Black Power
Hmm.
era, and
Hmm.
the 1990s, that was an era of multiculturalism and of America being on top and Americanism in general. So we coming up with these ideals that everybody's equal, that we're all under one umbrella, and that's where the identity politics kick in. So it's like when they talking about pulling out, they talking about it's like they just came to realize what we all knew to be true in the very first place.
Right.
So, and I think that speaks to how much damage has been done in our ability or has been done to prevent us from building institutions that raise our children from the womb to the tomb.
Hmm.
Because there's different ideals like that people get in these schools, they get going on these jobs, they get going to certain institutions all throughout their lives to the point where they become, married to like Kamala Harris, or they become married to, a Kentucky Brown Jackson or Jackson Brown. Like they want to be the first in an empire rather than being the inventor of their own empire. So, like, how do we build those ideals? Um, how do we empower our people to not even create institutions, because we already got institutions, but how do we make those institutions last longer? How do we raise their profile? How do we support them? How do we build the links of what we already got? Because there are already things in place. People are already doing things before Trump wanted anything. So like, how do we keep those going? Appeal in DC, they just raised 300,000 for their credit union, and that credit union, once it opens, because they need to get enough membership to be certified with the FDIC to make sure that they can run as a credit union, but they need enough people signing on. And once they do that, legacy businesses can take out loans or whatever the case is. We need things like that. Like, this is the time right now. Like, how do we unite around things that are already happening? Because we can't keep reinventing the wheel.
Right.
It
Just,
ain't
just a
going.
quick thing. Just a quick thing, Brother Sam Pekin. Since you got the mic, and I'm just waiting to bring Chief Foley back in. But I like for your assessment of the cabinet choices and what they tell us about what kind of presidency we're going to see as it stands right about now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
And
yeah.
then I know Baba Aji hasn't spoken yet, so when I hear from him after you speak.
All right, no doubt. So with Linda McMahon over the education department, well, now people get quite comical, but it's going to be a lot of disarray because he done it a lot the first administration as far as choosing people who are in no way qualified to run these cabinet positions. So it's going to be a lot of disarray. I can't necessarily remember the other. No, hold on. When we're talking about immigration, it's going to be held to pay
Oh
with
yeah,
that. There's
yeah,
definitely going to be held to pay with that because my understanding is that the cabinet picked for that when he was over ICE or some sort of other government agency. He went really hard, like
yeah. But he's not the cabinet pick. He's considered the border czar in charge of
borders are.
deportation.
All right, bet.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But you're on point with that
Yes.
thrust. You're on point because what he's done is twofold. I got the guy that's gonna kick everybody out, and then I got the guy that's gonna set up and say how we don't let you in. See,
Exactly.
so you got one on out and one keep you from coming in. Also follow what they do, what he has in here there in attacking China as well as Mexico as it relates to fentanyl. And I just want to throw stuff up to keep the conversation moving until Chief gets back with the next topic, is that they're targeting China and Russia and Mexico, but yet they make more fentanyl in America than you can ever import.
Yeah, well, while we're on that point, let's make it very clear that the conscious community needs to rally and close ranks. That's no question. I mean, we are very clear on America now being exposed to the real America that it is. To the unconscious community, we need to make sure we send a signal to those brothers and sisters that wish to begin to support some of the institution building that's been going on. And it's very important that you just mentioned. I don't see myself any longer. I don't know what happened to my screen.
We see you.
Okay, but anyway, I don't know what happened. I went black. But anyway, the bottom line is, as far as the immigration issue, as far as the so-called tariffs on Canada, on Mexico, China, and anywhere else, is going to create serious havoc in the communities because our brothers and sisters are not going to be clear on what to do. And it's our job to make sure that we stress to those brothers and sisters that wish to move forward and to regain some type of control of our destiny, that they need to come around to do for self and doing for self and not to expect anything to come from America. So I expect to actually see blood running in the streets
Yes.
in many ways. First of all, the criminals are saying that all those that aren't criminals are criminals. So that means that pressure is going to be, yeah, I'm trying to make it plain so our brothers and sisters are very clear.
Mm-hmm.
Be prepared because the change that's coming is a change that they've been working on for years to try to figure out how they can colonialize Africa again, how they can push African people who have thought that they rose to some type of prestigious positions, how they can beat them down. And that's very important for us to recognize that we're not only up against the white dominated supremacists, but we're also up against the ignorance of our people that will go berserk in all kinds of ways. So I want to just stress to brothers and sisters, we got to let go of fear. We got to reach for love. We got to come together. And for those brothers and sisters that want to organize, need to get with brothers and sisters who are focused on Pan-Africanism, focused on nationalism, and be prepared to be offensive in this war and not just defensive.
Yes.
You
Yes.
see, but that's most important. The time for just playing defense is over with. If we don't get on the offense now, as Marcus Garvey said, he said in 50 years we will be exterminated. So brothers and sisters got to be absolutely clear. It's a matter of life and death. It's not just survival. It's about advancing forward. Yes, sir, I want to go to that. But real quickly, brothers and sisters who are conscious out there, who have not read African-centered consciousness versus the New World Order, need to do that. Because not only Marcus Garvey, Amos Wilson, and many of our ancestors strive to prepare us for
Yes.
this day. And you cannot do it by going on Facebook and going on YouTube and listening to all that. You need to go to the actual documentation and find out the formulas to get back to our own self-determination. Baba Afam, go ahead.
Yeah, dovetailing on what you just said, and if Can everybody still hear me?
Yes,
We
sir.
can.
Two things. One, the book that you just mentioned, the Amos Wilson book. If you brothers are plugged into any kind of entities that would like SBET to do a slide presentation of the lecture of Amos Wilson, let me know, because this will be a part of the way to prime our brothers and sisters' minds to get ready for this reality. And by extension, what I want to say, along with Barbara Singhor, um, nothing is off the table at this point. When I said that time has run out, there will be blood in the streets, and even those who are like sitting back, some folks are waiting on Jesus, some people are waiting on the Democratic Party, some people are waiting on common sense to. It's like our institutions that we have all over the place have to be ready for an influx of black folks who are going to be running to us and saying, "Oh, open the door, let us in." So we also have to prepare for that type of thing, because when the rubber meets the road, that's when they're going to start panicking and freaking out.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they need to know where we are and what we can offer them. You know, whether it's physical self defense, whether it's food, whether it's clothing, whether it's medical, whether it's whatever. So we need to find ways to strategically let our communities know, hey, you know, we're here, right? You might not think that you need us right now or want us right now,
That's
but
right.
just know when the shit hits the fans, like email us, call us, you know, whatever. So I think that's another part of the strategy that we need to put out there. But I do want to reiterate, um, because the SBET schedule had changed last year because of the election. We usually do Blueprint for Black Power in the fall. We didn't do that because we were just prepping for all of this stuff. So if you want anything, like whether it's the psychology of self-hatred and self-defeat, which is a real important primer to get people's minds
Yes.
right. If you want the falsification of African consciousness, or you want the book that Baba Singhor mentioned, let me know, because I can, you know,
I
we
will.
can teach this. Yes, thank you. We can teach this all over the world, because this is the decolonizing piece that is operationalized by Baba Amos Wilson. So just
Okay. Baba
And,
IG
If
has
I can,
spoken. Baba
if I
IG
could
has
just
spoken, and Mansa
jump
also.
in real quick.
Yeah,
I
there you go.
promise to be quick.
no, that's
All
all right,
right.
bro.
Um, so family, Harlem Liberation School did a video, 7 things black people should do in wake of the Trump era. I don't want to be redundant with respect to that, but I think there's a few key points that I think we all agree on. And I think one thing, because I know there's different audiences that listen to Kumbuga Media. Some of you are seasoned activists and warriors. Some of you are novices. Some of you have deep black political consciousness, and some of you kind of don't. So I want to speak to that group that's interested and may not quite know what to make of this. I want to tell it to you very simply. The white people that you see doing these projects and moving the way they're moving are the ideological or biological descendants of the white people that was Confederates. They're the
Hmm.
same people.
Right.
They're, what they call in Project 2025, we could also call the Confederate plan. They're trying
Right.
to take it back, right? So that's very important. You're gonna miss a lot of the verbiage that you're gonna hear from the CNN and MSNBC, but that's essentially what it is. So what does that mean for you? It means they want to reduce you to a place where you have no political voice or agency. They want to reduce you to a place where you have no protection under the law. They want to create a situation where the military is weaponized against you. The FBI is weaponized against you. The DEA, which is already weaponized against us, is even more weaponized against you. So they want to create a situation where you're powerless, where you're at their beck and call. These are some of the things that I think we should expect. We should expect propaganda wars. We
Yes.
should expect an intense activity to make black people, Latino people, black people with education, black people without college education, black people who are workers, all these people having these little micro beefs with each other because they don't want people to organize and to unite. So
Exactly.
you're going to expect a lot of these conversations. You're going to expect it at your family get-togethers. You're probably going to hear it at Kwanzaa.
People, oh no, I don't know. You're gonna hear that, and when you hear that, somebody should have the political type of wherewithal to stop people. Say, look, they're not our enemies, y'all. They're not our enemies, y'all. They are our enemies, y'all.
Right,
And make sure
exactly.
people are clear. Secondly, you should expect limited access to necessities, to life-sustaining things. So something we could all do immediately. Everybody's stockpiling water, and you stockpiling food. Who's stockpiling medication? Hello?
Yeah,
You got elders that got insulin. Elders need high blood pressure medication. All these different things. We should be stockpiling that because the pharmacies are going to, the protections that are in place so that big pharma can't charge whatever they want, they're going to be gone. That's in Project 2025. That means they can be charging whatever they want for your grandma's medication, right? And that means that we need to make provisions. We need to anticipate these things, all the worst case scenarios, and instead of being like the cowardly lion in the Wizard of Oz and
that's right.
shaking, we say, "Oh, this is what they're going to do, and this is our preparation for that." Just like when I played football, they got a star running back. We know he's going to run that double reverse every time. Okay, so we're going to be over here and we're going to anticipate that. So the other thing is because the Trump administration is speaking so virulently and so in such a disparaging fashion of black people and other people, so-called people of color, and giving police license to feel that they can act any way they want without recourse, we should expect increased white vigilante violence against our people. We should expect increased white police violence against our people. So this means now our militias and black gun clubs, I know quite a few of the leaders of them love y'all, but I have to say this from the heart. The little marching, the marches and all that got to stop. We got to actually create provisions where people are actually protecting black people, because we should expect that. It means we're going to have to get legal defense funds up because we're going to be in them courts fighting against these police and other institutions. Um, and that's all I'm going to say at this point. We got a lot of show to go, so I'm going to stop there. Thank you.
Yeah, I wanna just say something real quick. We were talking about mentioning the so-called cabinet. Let me say this like this. I'm a preface it as Garvey would. Intelligence rules the world. Ignorance bears the burden. We're about to see some very, very ignorant and dangerous cabinet people that are going to continue to destroy the America as y'all saw it yesterday. It ain't going to be the same.
No.
Because what's going to happen is not only are they going to break these institutions apart, they're going to put things in place that they ain't even thinking about us. We out of it, black people. We're not in the equation. Let's be very clear. Those black folks that thought that they had an opportunity through the Democratic Party are no longer going to have any kind of power. And so that means they're going to be scrambling. They're going to be a problem for those brothers and sisters who want to do something around to do for self and building for ourselves. So let's be very clear. The state of confusion that's going to exist with people out of this fear factor. And I don't know, I've been checking, I don't know about y'all brothers, but I've been checking out some of the things they've been talking about in terms of what they're going to do to fight back. There is no fight back through the same system of America. The only fight we have is to build for our own selves and to look to Africa. I'm just going to make it real clear, and I'm going to stop there because I know our brothers are going to articulate it from a lot of other ways. I want to make it straight clear to y'all brothers and sisters listening to this. It's time for you to really understand what America was built about. It was not a bit about you. North America, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the United States snakes of system was never to include us in it. It was set to use us just like they used us as so-called slaves to help build what they're building. And let's be clear, when I say fear, they're afraid too, because they see things crumbling in the real world. the world that we are striving to get back to and build. So let's be real clear, brothers and sisters. It's time to close ranks, tighten up with your families, and make sure you have the kind of resources at hand to survive when you don't got a store to go to or somewhere to go buy it. You need to start stocking. You need to start learning how to grow your food. You need to connect with institutions. You need to get with brothers and sisters that are ready to fight back and to be able to meet power with power by any means necessary. And I'll stop on that point because I want to make it real clear, brothers and sisters that are listening. We've seen worse and we can survive, but we're not going to be able to survive the way you might think the Democratic and the Reptilian Party is in existence. They're at clash, they're at war too with each other. Let's be very clear. But we
Comment.
are not included on either side. We need to
What?
do our own building.
One of the comments that's in on that we have online is saying we need to not just stockpile, but we need to start building and making these products for our own communities too. Which is
Absolutely.
also speaking to the energy of building, how we build, how we get in positions in order to do that. Sam, here you go, Shakira.
Right. So there's a lot of talk and counter talk about the extent to which the black community in the USA, particularly black men, in fact voted for Donald Trump. I'd be interested to know from your own study, research, and/or personal experience, to whatever extent that is a reality. How much support does this present administration have among the black community, and what would be the basis of that support? What is it that those of us who may have supported the Trump administration thought that we're going to get from a Trump administration?
Statistically,
Yeah.
the larger percentage of the Hispanic male community voted for Donald Trump, and somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 to 20% of black males who voted also voted for Donald Trump. That's just speaking statistically. Some of what I guess is expected or possibly to achieve is some of the rights, particularly that are determined in the Hispanic community. Women's rights are questionable as it is, and some of that is questioned in Project 2025 as well. So I don't. Other than that, the mere fact that the percentage is what it is, that went out and to Sam's point too, and they said 92% of black women voted for Kamala Harris because they saw that as that generational piece. So I don't know that I can't speak to what they think they will gain from that, but I will say that it is a challenge in order to address that particular type of concept that a dictator is better for you than the flip flop or whatever we
So
are call them. Go
so
ahead.
yeah, but real quickly, you know that it's irrelevant in a way, Shaka Ra, because if you look at the real deal of the people that voted for him, the majority of people that voted for him are white or Latino, etc. The few percentage of black people that vote, if all black people had voted for Kabila, in my opinion, Trump would have still won. So what I'm saying to you is that that conversation is one that can be held, but we know a lot of our brothers and sisters are confused, very confused about politics in America. So I'm not surprised that some may have gone that way versus going the Democratic way because they have seen no success in the Democratic Party and they've been hoodwinked to think that they're going to get some success the other way. They're going to have a rude awakening. If you look, not one black person has been appointed or even
Oh,
recommended to his cabinet. But
you
you have,
won.
huh?
Got one. You got one.
Okay, one. Okay, but all right. But percentage
Yeah,
wise,
Doug Sutton if I'm not mistaken.
huh? But
I think his name is Doug Sutton if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
say that again, Shakara.
I believe his name is Doug something or another. I can't
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah. But what I'm saying
Yeah.
is all. Oh yeah. Oh okay. I know who you're talking about. But all black folk ain't kinfolk to black people. Okay, let's be very clear. They have their own ulterior motives for whatever. But my point is to you is that the major reason Donald Trump is now in the White House is because of white supremacy in America.
Yeah.
Period. Now, that's very important because they are the population that is very afraid and scared about this now. And they talk about immigrants when they were the first immigrants. Let's be very clear. So it's not about who comes here, who's an immigrant. It's about them seeing that they're losing power. And they see that that's what they have been programmed to believe, that they're losing power. And in a lot of senses, they are losing power on a global scale. But on a national level, and I say North America because let's be very clear, the only indigenous people in North America are not white folks, period. They're either so-called Indians or Africans or indigenous people. But if you look at the Americas, the majority of people are people of color. So it's a minority that we're dealing with that have control of the United States snakes of America. And then when Trump comes in, he opens the door for all of the major racists, all of the major white supremacists who are afraid of a rise of the true people of the planet. And let's be very clear, that is what is happening in so-called America. And we are out for a serious run these 4 years so that we can begin to wake up and see that there is no future in those systems. So we need to build our own systems. We need to think out the box. And yes, you're right, PG, whoever chimed in, we need to build our own everything, including governments.
Absolutely.
So
Go
a
ahead,
follow up a
Simmons.
follow up question on that, if I may. A follow up question on that, if I may. There's been some talk about Trump protecting black jobs. Yeah. I know he got some backlash for the terminology, but to what extent? I mean, what is the substance of that claim, and to what extent are the jobs in our community going to be addressed by this administration? What impact is this administration going to have?
All fake
on
news.
I'm
the
going to leave
labor
it. Let
of the
Baba
black
Finn.
community?
Baba Finn had his hand. I want him to let him start with that in response to your question or whatever it was, and then we can get back to your question. I love the black jobs
Nah,
question.
I'm
Well,
gonna go after.
my comment was actually dovetailing on Brother RG's comment about stockpiling water and medicine and things of that nature. I had created a Google Doc for myself maybe 2 or 3 years ago, a survival thing with not only stockpiling water but water purification things,
Right.
weapons, outdoor gear. Like I got a whole Google Doc of a lot of different topics of stuff to buy and to have ready. But I did want to make a point because another part of my background, brothers, is that I'm also a certified personal trainer and a healer. So one of the things that I had always been about was like if you are on for example medication, get off that medication, get your health together, lose weight, get in shape, because you might have to run, you might have to climb, you might have to duck, you might have to lift, and this could be your life or your children's life. So as black folks in America, we got all of these different health disparities because of our oppression. It's like there's no more time for that as well. It's like you got to put the ice cream down. You got to start running around the block. You got to get your health together. You got to, if you're, hooked, trapped on prescription drugs like they want you to, like I take blood pressure medication. I have for the past few years. I've been weaning off, right? Getting my health straight, getting, my diet straight, all that stuff. So I don't even have to be bothered with being concerned about getting my medication. You see what I'm saying? So, and even just being physically able. It's like if the cops are chasing you and you can't run or you can't climb a fence or you can't lift your child, it's like the health, your health and wellness is going to be a big part of this revolution. So we also got to get ourselves in shape and be aware of detaching certain things from us that have been attached to us through the society.
There is no wealth. There is no wealth without health.
That's right.
Period. Period.
So I just wanted to, jump in.
You right on it, brother.
Appreciate that, but to your point about black jobs.
Oh no, I didn't have anything on black jobs actually.
No, I know, but that was Sakurai's question was in reference to black jobs. Well,
I got.
go ahead,
Go ahead,
Sam.
Papa.
Go ahead, Sam.
Nah, no doubt. So, I mean, there is some merit to what Shakurai was saying, and this goes back to the first Trump presidency. The whole ADOS movement came up during that time and gained a lot of traction. And what Trump was doing, Trump lit a fire within the nativist America First population, some of whom are black people who identify more with empire than they do the diaspora. So
Yeah.
Trump's rhetoric is is music to somebody's ears who identifies with America and who sees themselves as separate from Africans from other places.
Hmm.
So, you know, and you even heard it among people who migrated here maybe like 20 years ago. They got their green card or they got their citizenship now. They don't really take favor or they look down upon the more recent migrants. It's that sort of America first identity that people are taking on. They're married to this idea, this propaganda that's been wielded over like centuries or so. So in response to Shakarai's question, it's definitely was something that had some impact in the election, and it's more indicative of the state of public school education in the United States, which the U.S. government is not mandated to give you quality of. So while Brown versus the Board of Education got rid of separate but equal, it still didn't mandate a quality education, and that's even more in jeopardy for those of us who like going into these schools. They wouldn't have any more of a guarantee to provide a quality education with Trump in office, So definitely a lot to look towards in that regard. There was one more point I wanted to make. Uh, Statistically, Trump would have won, and the Republicans and the white ones of that have been they've been engineering this for some time now through gerrymandering. So what they do is they take the majority black districts and they split them in half and take those black people and put them in white districts, or they put white districts in the black districts to water down the black votes. And they were doing this in the southern states in particular. You had your voter disenfranchisement. So, for those of us who are thinking about staying here, giving America a chance, there was one suggestion that one journalist made as far as black people doing a reverse migration into the South, because what Trump has done was shed light on the Midwest and the South as the real United States. The East Coast elites and the West Coast elites, they've dominated our perception of what the United States was for a very long time. But the United States, the battleground, the new battleground over the next election cycles, it will be the Midwest and the South, because that's who's dominating currently. And until black people take over those districts, and overcome generations of racial terrorism in those places, then there won't be then Donald Trump or anybody like him, they will not be disempowered.
So, my brothers, let me lay some other questions. Chief Fode just sent some of these questions to me. Just I'm gonna throw them out, and we can address them how we so fit, so that everybody listening is very
But,
clear.
I've got them, yeah. So I'll
Okay.
guide the conversation
Okay.
from here.
All right. Okay. Great.
So that you're just free to comment, yeah.
Great.
Uh,
Great.
and we'll do it that way.
Okay.
I do want to throw in something else before I get into those specific questions. In terms of analysis of the election, Bernie Sanders has been very loud since the election happened, in terms of his critique of the Democratic Party and their failures as regards quote unquote working class people, and he's been met with some backlash. And I'm raising this because some of the backlash that he's been met with has come specifically from the black community and black media because of his deficiencies in terms of race, and race issues, which I don't deny, but I'm very aware of the fact that the critique of of Bernie on those issues actually came when he was running against Hillary Clinton. And there were Africans who were getting at him on the race issue as though Hillary Clinton was better on the subject. Yeah. So I did want just an analysis of what you make of Bernie's um, pronouncements and it, the prospects for that in terms of, because a lot of people agree with him, in terms of how that's going to manifest itself throughout the Trump presidency. Is there going to be a significant quote unquote left counter movement to Trump? Do you reckon?
In 2 years, possible, but I don't know that we're actually going to have that as an opportunity 2 years from now.
That's right.
I think Bernie's comments warrant us to look at them, but that's also want us to recognize that he too is on the other side of this particular agenda.
Absolutely.
And recognizing that, realizing that, yes, we have to focus on our own industry. We've talked about it before. That's how we cannot be, won't have to be too concerned with jobs, but also recognizing that we have to build the structure that's going to speak. You pointed out, Sam pointed out, and Shakara too, the South, the Midwest, how they gerrymander, how they do those particular politics, because we don't pay attention to the politics on the local level, state level, and the midterms, and therefore it allows all this shit to happen. So I think we get focused, for those of us who are going to be here, you got to get focused on how to address the changes that's come and also react to those conditions that were changed initially. Because when they did the gerrymandering, we looked at it, and not say we specifically, but we looked and we said, okay, let's see if the Supreme Court does it. Well, the Supreme Court is just as much on the other side of your enslavement as the courts that you face from day to day. So I say all that to come to this conjunction when it comes to Bernie Sanders. And again, I give him credit for his analysis, but again, I look at all those particular politicians in the light of them wanting to try to make sure that the system continues to run for their benefit.
Yes.
If I could,
Go ahead,
Sorry,
Sam.
Baba.
Go ahead, Sam.
in response to Shakarat's question, I don't see any left or far left movement
Mm-hmm.
being built because the Republican Party is homogenous in the sense that they will unite behind Trump, whereas the Democratic Party is the same corporate partner of the Republican Party, but they're more heterogeneous. They got more
Yes.
interest in there, so they're always competing for interest. They can never get around to like fulfilling the wishes of the far left. And anybody, Bernie Sanders himself, he capitulates to the Democratic Party quite a lot often. This criticism, I mean, it does sound credible coming from him, but and he has been a vocal opponent of corporatism, but the Democratic Party isn't ready to go far left to take on Trump. They're not ready. And as far as a movement, that's going to have to be, I guess local. And one person I see doing that, the brother named Maurice. Now, he's not a nationalist at all. But if you're talking to leftists and that type of situation, he might be one to do it. But the corporatists, the Democrats, they always got a way of keeping people corporate. They even like even Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, like she was as left as Bernie Sanders was, and they made her centrist, and she talking about running for president too, and she gonna lose too because the leftists ain't gonna like her.
Right.
Right.
That's what's wrong with the Democrats. They never go hard as Republicans. They always gonna try to that's just what it is, and they're not gonna learn. And so what's gonna happen now is that we just gonna have to keep doing what we're doing pretty much.
Yeah.
Yes. It's a pipe dream. It's a pipe dream. They looking at the next 4 years. We can't. It's a pipe dream. I mean, it's America politics as usual. Whenever the Republicans are in, they start to try to plan a strategy for the next 4 years. That ain't for us. That ain't for black people. Because even if you look at the history before Trump, before Biden, before Clinton, before Kamala, all of them, even all the way back, it's always been a thing of wait until the next election, and we're gonna come in. And as Sam say, it's the same game. It just has a different face. And it's very, very important for us to speak truth to power to African people, because there is no future for America, and there's definitely no future for African people in politics or controlling the United States of America. And that's a reality check that y'all need to really check out right now. And the way the planet is being attacked and the way people are being attacked, we don't got another 4 years to build for ourselves. We need to take advantage of this opportunity of black people beginning to see that they're not relating to us as black people. Look at what they've done to us with what's already in place, and imagine what's going to be look like in 4 years. But we need to think about right now, and preparedness is the watchword for right now, 2025. And in terms of 2025, the so-called plan that they have, we need to have our plans for 2025 of teaching our brothers and sisters about how to repatriate, how to fight against this system, and how to protect our families and our women and our children. That is super important, brothers and sisters. And I want to make it plain, like Malcolm say, we were hoodwinked, bamboozled. Now that you're no longer under that illusion of confusion, you need to know the only future for our people or any people is to do for self and to build Africa, which everybody is there. And we need to have control of Africa as African people. And we need to look to the Sahel states and look at what's happening right there. Brothers and sisters, it is for real. It is not an American issue. It is a world problem. It's a world problem that we as black people have. And those of us in North America need to be very clear. We need to build for ourselves and prepare to protect ourselves against anybody. And this whole thing with Bernie Sanders, hey, it's a pipe dream. I mean, you can talk good, but the Democrats ain't done nothing for black people significantly at all. And it ain't going to happen in the Republican Party, certainly. And they're telling us straight in our face. So we need to wake up and go ahead, Baba Afam.
To
I've got another question on Chief Foley's questions, but if I'm going, then I'll come after that.
okay. To dovetail on what you just said, Baba, both wings of that bird are white.
Yes.
So it does not matter. So the psychological piece of white supremacy is something called what is it? It's SDT. Anyway, it's a social psychological set where you will always seemingly change things in society, but you will keep the same basic core, right?
Mhm.
So it really doesn't matter. And like you said, it was apropos. We were hoodwinked, and too many of us have bought into it. What I do want to just say from a ray of hope, if you will, a positive thing, because this is scary, this is upsetting, this is sad. One good thing I feel, brothers and sisters, is that this is finally the crucible of fire that, excuse my French, Negroes have needed to finally get the F up and do some ish, because there are no more options at this point. All this other stuff is done. Marcus warned us, and Nkrumah warned us, Malcolm warned us, Amos warned us.
Amos warned us.
And all these people said the same things that we are saying right now.
That's right.
We have met the end of the line. So just like all living organisms must either evolve or die. And African people at this point worldwide must evolve their consciousness and must change their actions and behaviors, or else they're going to die or they'll go crazy in the process.
Let me read something real quick, and I'm not going to be long, Shakara, and then we'll come right back to you. The Assimilationist Treadmill. Amos Wilson said on page 61, the illusion of progress. We have a leadership that, and we're talking about America now, y'all. We're not talking about us. those of us who are Garveyites or Nkrumahs. But we have a leadership that has sought to get us to accept the status quo, the control of the world by Europeans. You inherently hear some of us conceding that it's a white man's world. So we may as well learn how to live in it or just get along. I'm not going to go any further because I want people to do the research and get the book, period. But it's very important for us to recognize, just in this book, and there's many books that we can recommend, but just in the African-centered consciousness versus the New World Order, Garveyism in the Age of Globalism by Amos Wilson, he laid it out. This was done way before all of this stuff. So the visionaries of African people is already with us. But I'm saying to brothers and sisters, you need to get this, and you really need to get this in your head. Psychologically, we have been hoodwinked to think that there's some kind of way for us to be in power with the other fellow. It don't work. It ain't going to work. They haven't planned for it to work for us, and we should not be planning for it to work for us. We need to get away from that thing of thinking that America's somehow going to come back around to some kind of equality. That don't work for black people. And now the wake-up call is what we going to do for ourselves, brothers and sisters. Are we just going to sit back and do what these so-called leaders talk about, what Amos Wilson warned us about? Or Marcus Garvey warned us about, Kwame Nkrumah warned us about, Sekou Ray warned us about, Nanny Helen Burroughs warned us about. We need to do for ourselves, brothers and sisters, and we cannot get around it. This is a wake-up call, and Baba Afam, I'm glad you mentioned it. The best thing that has happened for us is the truth is coming to surface of who we are who is opposed to us, who is trying to annihilate us, and it's very important for us to recognize that they do not want us to exist, brothers and sisters. They want to divide us, keep us fighting amongst ourselves, keep us thinking that there's some kind of a hope in the United States of snakes. It ain't. And I've been here a long time, and I watched it for a long time. I'm right here in Washington, D.C., and it ain't going to change. And it's going to be some dynamics and some battles that take place because Virginia, Maryland, and D.C. are so-called democratic, and now the reptilians are coming in. They're going to rumble. We as black people ain't on either side. We need to get our own thing up out of there and build for ourselves, as Garvey warned us, as Amos Wilson warned us. And brothers and sisters, don't think that for a minute we're not a minority. We're a majority people globally. Only 14% in North America or in the US of A. And the percentage that Donald Trump, many people didn't vote at all. Y'all understand? So let's get away from this whole thing of tallying things from a Urugu or European perspective. It ain't gonna work for us, brothers and sisters. I don't know what else has got to happen for us to wake up. But Baba Afam, you're absolutely on it, brother. We need to teach our brothers and sisters
That's
what
it.
they need to be about and knowing who they are, knowing yourself, and knowing that yourself has no place in the system that they have built. In fact, every system they have built has been opposed to us. But go ahead, Shaka Ra. I know there's
Give
some
thanks.
other questions.
No, yeah, 100%. Give facts, Bob. I just want to say that that message from Nana Amos Wilson is one that I listen to at least once a year. And the beautiful thing about it is that he does have marching orders for the nationalists as well. He
That's right.
makes
Absolutely.
it clear
That's right.
to
Yes.
to separate the pseudo nationalists from the true nationalists. And
Absolutely.
brothers and sisters who have been paying attention, the speech upon which that book is based has been getting regular excerpts released through Kimbunga Media every Umwajade, every Sunday over the last couple months. And so you're going to get the final installment of that tomorrow, dealing with the true nationalists versus the pseudo nationalists. And we're going to go into some other Nana Amos Wilson energies for our Sunday programming. So do stay tuned for that. But yes, I do encourage ones and ones to get the book as well, Essential Analysis. We want to shout out and give thanks to the girl RK for the super chat. And the girl RK says, best panel convo I've seen in a while. Thank you. Love from Canada. So bigging up the people them in Canada. Long time since I've been to T.O. I went to T.O in 2005, so we're giving thanks to the Canada Massive. Big up yourself for tuning in. Right, I'm going to get back to Chief Follow's questions, because he did ask about war. And there are two major wars currently, in train. One of which is the war on Gaza, and the other is Russia versus Ukraine. Yeah, I don't know if brothers have any analysis of those particular wars and the impact of this presidency. There's been a lot said that Trump is going to end the wars in 24 hours. Well, he said he's going to, get rid of the immigrants 24 hours. But basically, that if he was in power, the wars would not even have taken place, and so he's going to solve them very, very quickly. Apparently, I don't know if brothers have a thought on those particular. And if you don't, it's fine. I'm just putting it out there. If you have any analysis on those particular wars and
Well,
this administration's impact upon them.
the war between Israel and the people in the Gaza is truly a racial elimination. And Israel, in trying to establish its security, is not really concerned with the other peoples. If you look at what they've done and how they've done it, of course, they have gone after them more than one time, and this time they want to absolutely try to eliminate Hezbollah as well as Hamas. But they also are looking at eliminating the Palestinians. I realize Israel in and of itself is in Palestine. That's what it was called prior to the European just designating it a state for Israel. And in reference to Ukraine, well, Ukraine is in a perplexing situation because I believe that is the gateway for World War III. Because I think as other white nations begin to become more engaged, Russia will become more engaged. America will also decide which side of the rock it's going to stand on. Because if it stands with its hands behind its back, they're going to drop a nuclear bomb over here as well. So those wars are instigating conflict worldwide. Remember, America stood on the sidelines in World War II, all until she was kicked in the face by Japan. She didn't get into the conflict. So America tries not to do that. But what I want to do is take this back to the fact that we, as people of African descent, caught up in all of this mess, have to make into work on our own behalf. I truly believe that blood will run in the streets of America. I believe it will run in the streets of America because of how white folks will perceive their particular posture. But at this point in time, we also have to recognize that we are better prepared than we were before. We're better prepared, not just with the knowledge that is handed down and not just with the guidance, but physically, mentally, we are better prepared. Now, film said you need to be able to run if the cops chasing you. These niggas ain't running when the cops come to chase them. They turn around shooting back at the cops. That's what's going to happen. That's where the blood going in the street. And then what we have to do is be able to make sure we can move forward in a structured way, governmentally structured way. We talk about it, but we have to be about it. You have to be about the business of building the governmental structure that we can all relate to. And it's not going to be an American government. It's going to be a government for people of African descent.
Yeah, we also need to recognize with all of these wars brewing, we need to look into Africa and look at the tentacles that all of these beasts have in Africa. And that's super important because each one of those wars are spilled into Africa. And that's not being talked about in their media, but all of them are there. All of them. And I'm not just talking about Russia. I'm talking about Ukraine. I'm talking about the Israelis or Israels folks. They there. They in Africa. And so we need to understand that if we control Africa, we control the direction of how those wars would be taking place. We as African people, but we need to be absolutely clear. They're not just, President General, you just made it clear that these wars that have escalated are worldwide, meaning they could spill into what is called a World War III. And we need to be prepared for that. If you don't know the history of World War One, if you don't know the history of World War II, look out for what could happen in World War III. So we need to be prepared in that way because it has a tendency of spilling over everywhere, and it definitely impacts everywhere, all kinds of ways. And for Trump saying he's going to end this, oh, he got the power to end it the way he wants to end it. And that ain't a good ending. That's war on the people, indigenous people. In ending it, it's a war on indigenous people. Let's be clear. His ending is to turn the white the white controllers against Africa again. PG, you held up Project 2025 earlier, and we were talking about its impact on Africa.
Well,
And so we need to look at what happened with Libya, and we need to look at all those folks that was in Libya fighting against Gaddafi and taking Gaddafi down are now in Africa. They're now all around the borders of the
no,
Sahel states. Oh,
and
go ahead, brother RJ. Go ahead.
go
Yes,
ahead.
sir. I just want to build on what Baba just said, just a little more specifically. So Donald Trump withdrew U.S. Support of the Iran nuclear deal, right? Iran is hostile with the United States, and Trump is a big supporter of Israel. Israel is backed by Iran. So one of the things we can expect is a lot of beef, not just with the Palestinians, but with Iran. And the other thing is he's super agitated with China and all these trade agreements and all this tariff talk. So he's exacerbating tensions with China.
Yes.
China is nuclear. So that's another thing we can expect. Also, he's buddying up with the little short guy, Kim Jong Un
Yeah.
in North
Yeah.
Korea, right?
Yes.
He's a dictator. He's buddying up with him, but they got beef over kind of their nuclear proliferation things. And dictators you can never trust, right? You can't buddy up with a dictator unless you do their bidding. So that's another thing that we can expect. So what Baba just said, this idea of a world war is very real. This is not to be alarmist, but
No.
it also suggests, because I'm about policy, what do we do? It suggests that we need to develop diplomatic capacity if we don't
Yes.
already. And we need to have conversations with other countries. We need to have our people talking to these people. We need to see ourselves as a nation,
Right.
right? And nations have diplomats, and we need to be talking to some of these countries for ourselves. And right now, I think that's compromised, but that's a step we need to move to. With that, I'm done.
Just
Excellent
to,
point.
just to end
All right. Sorry.
interject,
Go
if
ahead,
I
Baba.
can talk about just to interject. In Project 2025, he talks about Middle East and North Africa, and the next administration must rearrange with Middle Eastern and North African nations and not abandon the region. Without U.S. leadership, the region may tumble further into chaos. I mean, what the hell do they think that people of African descent cannot move forward without them? Right? I'm just taking it right out of Project 2025. You know, they talking about the second administration should build on the Trump administration and diplomatic success. Somebody tell me what success they had when it came to people of African descent. He showed none. They talk about separating Africa and shifting their focus from being assistance to growth. Now, if you want to help Africa grow, take your hands off Africa's throat.
That's
See,
right.
take your hands off of
Get out.
it. But they honestly believe that it is entirely up to them to salvage and save us from ourselves, and realizing that it's not us that we have to save ourselves from, but it is them. And the reason I point to Project 2025 is because that is the playbook. That's the
Yeah.
playbook. Hitler
Yeah.
did it with Mein Kampf, and folks ignored the playbook.
That's right.
Project 2025 is
Right.
the playbook. Talks about the diplomacy, it talks about the economics, it talks about it. And so when Shakara, when you said about black jobs, here's the thing. They want to deport 80 million people. So out of the 80 million people that they deport, who the hell is going to go pick the fruit in the fruit fields? I know who not, but I thoroughly believe that's going to be considered a black job. And yet, our intelligence level, our growth level is not going to allow that to happen. And we have to be prepared, because they have already sent out texts to students saying to them, you have been selected, that you now got to go pick cotton. Come on, y'all.
All right. So,
Um,
Baba, you just. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Baba. Afam.
yeah. Brother,
I do want to leave the conversation on after this, though. Okay, go ahead.
yes, I do have to leave the conversation. Unfortunately, I have to go meet with Brother Sababu regarding some Amos Wilson stuff, some really good stuff. But I do want to say, dovetailing on PG and what he said about Trump and his administration, I don't want anyone to forget that what we are dealing with is a person who is a sociopathic, malignant narcissist,
Yes.
in addition to being a dictator. If you're not sure what that really means, like look that stuff up or watch the documentary that I was a part of in 2020 called Unfit: The Psychology of Donald Trump. It's bad enough to be a dictator, but if you're like a Caligula or a Hitler and you got a playbook, it
Mm-hmm.
takes to a whole nother level.
Yep.
So that's my last word, folks.
Bye-bye, fam. Appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate
Long
you,
live the
brother.
legacy of Amos Wilson. And we're gonna hold you to what you said, Baba. I know you're
Absolutely.
ready.
Absolutely.
Stay,
Because
Thank you.
stay,
people need
stay tuned, brothers and sisters. We got some Nana Amos Wilson honors coming. Our Nana Amos Wilson groundings biannual, and Baba Afam was going to be with us for
excellent.
our next one. So stay tuned,
Kamunga,
all right.
Peace.
Yes, sir.
whirlwind.
Yes, sir.
That's
All
what
right.
time it is.
So, in relation to now, the issue of immigration, let us discuss that a bit because that is something that Trump said he's going to address in 24 hours of him taking of him being inaugurated as the president of the United States of America.
Shakara, that's one of
Yeah,
the most dangerous. That's one of the most dangerous things that's going to happen.
right.
And it's critical that we recognize when we say blood in the street. That's one of the things I'm talking about because just like we need to organize. Certain other people are organizing. Remember, most of the immigrants that have come here recently have come here because a lot of times their lives have been threatened. Is that not correct? If you've been forecasted, they forecasted we coming after you, they're not going to just go willingly. So you're going to have a confrontation that takes place. Plus, you're going to have all kinds of problems with identifying people. Plus, you're going to cause problems for people that are not even immigrants because all of this is related to humanity and people. So when you talk about coming after people like that, and it's a lot, PG said 80 million. That's a lot of people. And this ain't never been done. And those folks, they left where they were from because of fear. What do you think they're going to do if they know someone's coming after them? So that right there is blood. Now, secondly, what about the brothers and sisters who not even in that, that get caught in the crossfires or get identified as being such when they're not really in that? But who in America is not an immigrant? Just think about that. They talking about coming after indigenous black people and people of African descent and so-called Latino descent. That's
Twofold.
not going to be an easy thing. And
No.
then in addition to that, the other side of the coin is you're going to have a lot of mindless black people, white people, gray people, all kinds of people running loose, afraid. That is why we talk about blood in the streets. So, brothers and sisters, don't get paranoid. Let's be realistic. We already are being attacked. We already being killed by being poisoned by pharmaceutical industries, by eating wrong types of food. We're already dying. But they talking about some immediate action in terms of your life and death. And like Baba Keely was absolutely correct. This ain't yesterday. This is today.
Right.
Brothers and sisters, I know in the DMV, Maryland and Virginia, and DC, and of course, probably all across the country, are preparing themselves. And a lot of them don't know what battle is all about. They don't know what they're preparing themselves against, but they're preparing themselves. Y'all listen to what I'm saying. So you're going to have all kinds of havoc, confusion going on. That is why it's so important for those of us who are conscious, those of us who are not afraid, those of us who are clear that the way Africa goes, the world goes. That we need to be real clear on how we're going to fight this oppression that's coming at us. We need to step up our game. Everybody listening that's conscious, y'all need to close ranks. We ain't got no time for games. Brother Afram made it clear. It's time for closing ranks. It ain't time for us fighting over ideology, fighting over this or that. It's time to close ranks. Family, it's time to buckle in and be prepared to defend yourself, and if necessary, get up out of here. Y'all hear what I said? If necessary, get up out of here. And there are ways and
Yes, Bob.
means on the continent. But be clear, Elon Musk is just as dangerous, or if not more dangerous, than Donald Trump. Y'all heard what I said.
We'll,
And a lot of people
we'll come
don't
back.
understand how dangerous he is. Because so it's not about the man, it's about the plan. It's about Project 2025, which is the Heritage Foundation. It's about the vice president that's with Trump. It's about all of these folks that are lunatics and subject to do anything they can. They think it's for survival of them. But I'm here to tell you that the karma that's gonna come back for all these people that thought they gonna see something different from Trump, and they see something that they don't like, they're gonna be angry too. So you're gonna have a massive confusion going on, a whole lot of minds that are out to lunch. And so when you got that, it's just like the criminals, just like brothers and sisters in their own community. The criminals, the so-called real criminals, I'm talking about people who think that they can take from others. They're gonna be on the loose too. So buckle up, everybody. But guess what?
Yes.
We've seen worse. I
Well,
want
if
people
I,
to be clear. African people have seen worse. Look at Haiti. Look at the
but
Congo. Look at what our brothers and sisters are faced with there. Brothers and sisters, it could also face you here in so-called the United States. PG, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm
I
just trying to
do.
make it plain and clear and simple for our people to understand. It's time to bunker in and get organized. Get
Well,
organized and prepared.
and
Anyway, Shakara,
yeah, but part of that is not only if that's true, but our folks have really very little concept of what you are espousing, particularly across the genre. They really don't understand what's going on in Haiti. They don't understand what's going on in Africa either. They have some what they see in the news, but they don't understand the grounding part, the root part. They don't understand slavery for all intents and purposes
that's true.
because we're so too far. Sam brought it up earlier. When you look at the fact that in that generation, the millennial generation, the degrees and the things that they accomplished, and therefore the belief that America was going to be different than what it was historically. What built it is what built it, and it's still it's going to be built. So when they talk about 80 million people, he's saying 80 million people, but that man said the czar and his comment was, well, if some of the families is Americans and some of the families are immigrants, we'll just take the whole damn family. So they're not
Right.
just talking about immigrants; they're talking about also moving out people that are American citizens, which is based on your birth. And they also want to remove that as a possibility too. Remove the birthright as making you a citizen. So the thrust here, when it comes to immigration, and I think that was the purpose of the conversation, America is also talking about allowing people to come in, but it also wants to make sure it controls every nation in its hemisphere. So it's not just here. It's going to be every nation in the hemisphere. South America, they want to and make sure they implement it, control it. And wherever they are instituting finances, which is in Project 2025, say if we gonna give you any money if you ain't gonna be working with me? See, so America is now trying to put itself in a position to be that world dominant force in a unhumane way, without partnerships,
So
without any grief.
one of the issues that has come up in the election campaign in relation to immigration is the impact of immigration on Black America.
Okay.
Um, and so there are many in the Black community. And I think Sam kind of alluded to this earlier, who believe that immigration is a significant issue that needs to be dealt with because of its impact on Black America. Is that a sound analysis as far as the Bubbers are concerned here?
Yes, it is. It is. It is. I mean, the reason I say that is because, you know, people are caught up in the quagmire of fighting against each other. And that is a serious issue. For an example, let's take Chicago for an example. People feel that they've been being displaced by others that are being brought in. And to some extent, they're correct. But What are you being displaced with? I mean, what do you have, really? You understand what I'm saying, Shakara? In other words, it is a divisive tactic to have people fighting against one another. And like I said, all of the people in North America or the US of A basically are immigrants. And so it's about pitting people against people. And I understand our brothers and sisters who are upset about that, but really, what do they have? That's a question. Sam, help us out on this one, Sam, because I know younger brothers and sisters are falling into this whole trap of us against them, and really, it shouldn't even be us against them. It's really the powers that be are pitting us against one another. So, Sam, help us out with that, brother.
And Baba, before you come in, I do want to make this point because I know there are mischievous elements tuned in, and be clear, and I know you understand this, that the Africans in the United States of America were not immigrants. They were stolen property. Yeah, they
Yeah,
were
true.
prisoners
That's
of
true.
war
True.
in
That.
America. You know, there was no voluntary migration.
True.
For the most part, the majority of Africans in the United States of
Definitely,
America
yes.
are descendants of people that were kidnapped. Yeah.
Sure, you're right,
And
Shakara. You're right.
brought here. So that's not an immigrant population right there. But I was meant. I know you understand that, but I just want to make that very clear.
No. You're absolutely clear. You're right. You're right at what you
But
just said.
having said that, let me hand over to Brother Sam PK.
And even with that point that you made, Brother Shakarad, there's a population of the black population here who doesn't even believe that they came through the Maafa. You know,
Right.
they conflate, you know, mixing between indigenous and African populations with not just being African at all. And that itself came out of what I understand to be a result of the me versus them syndrome. So my understanding, especially more recently in studying the scholarship of a descendant of Edward Wilmot Blyden, her name escapes me, but she actually taught at the school I graduated from. But she spoke about how the African American label among those of us who were here for generations sort of came more into question once African and West Indian immigrants came on this side. So upon seeing the more recent immigrants or the recent immigrants, you got more Africans who've been here for generations questioning the African part of African American, you know? So that's been something that's been happening for quite a long time. And it goes back to the a part of history where the whole Liberia project, once Thomas Jefferson and James Madison, James Monroe, whoever else was talking about repatriation, then the African population in the United States was like, well, nah, I'm not African. I'm actually of this country. You know, so a lot of what we saw in the election when it came to black people, that was nothing new. You know, for the last, especially in the last 30 years, as the United States became, you know, the blueprint for a country, there's always been this thing about identifying with the country versus identifying with the diaspora. So it's not, you know, anything new. It's just that as resources become more depleted, as the United States position comes more into question, there is, you know, this notion of, well, these immigrants are taking our jobs. And that is how a segment of the black population feels. And you see that on any job you go to, when it comes to housekeeping, when it comes
Yes.
to even education, even higher education. You know, there's always contention around the makeup of the population. You know, and you'll have people point out that black higher education population students are not is diverse in the ethnicity. You know, African Americans might not be, you know, the majority of the population. You might have more international students, or you might have students whose family been here for like one generation or so. So it's definitely an issue that the ADOS movement has exacerbated, but it's always been here. You know, as far as the ethnic tensions within our community.
Mm-hmm.
All right, give thanks, Brother Sam PK. I want to move on to
Thanks,
another
Sam.
one of give thanks for
Oh,
of the questions
A
dutifully
long-winded
put together.
answer, but you
No,
know,
it's so good, bro. It's so good.
excellent, Sam. Excellent.
Not long-winded at all.
appreciate it.
So The another question is about the anti-hate bill, um, and what we can expect in terms of the anti-hate bill as it relates to crimes against African people. What do you? Does anybody have a comment on that? If not, we can move on. You know, so
No, no, I got one comment.
Mhm.
There's legislation, and then there's execution of legislation, right? So
Right.
even if the bill were to pass,
Right.
it would the executive, the federal government, it would be the Justice Department that would have to execute that or would have to make sure that it gets followed, and it's not likely that'll happen, under a Trump Justice Department. And then even with that, the court challenges 6-3 in the Supreme Court going their way, it doesn't look likely that, anything legally is going to happen in our favor as it relates to that. So I think that when it comes to black people as a group, when it comes to protecting ourselves, what's the saying? I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. Like that's how we gotta approach things, in all honesty.
Yeah. And
I'll give you fair warning because we've had some experiences over here with the law being used in mischievous ways. Recently, an Asian woman was taken to court for attending a protest. I think it was a pro-Palestine protest with a placard of the then Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, who's the first Asian Prime Minister in the UK, and they had his face and another Asian politician by the name of Suella Braverman, who's also on the right of politics, the Conservative Party, superimposed on coconuts, yeah, and so they will be referred to as coconuts. And this woman was taken to court for hate speech, um, for criticizing members of her own community's lack of allegiance to their community. And there were other Africans who they weren't necessarily taken to court, but it was alluded to, the idea was alluded to that they could also be tried for or punished for hate speech for referring to other Africans as things like Uncle Tom and sellout, and Negro. Yeah, so I don't know how it's going to manifest in the states, but because of the rise of what I refer to as the Black conservative industrial complex, it's entirely possible that these laws can be weaponized against Africans trying to hold other Africans to account for their lack of racial allegiance.
So
In that respect, you know?
if I may, then I'll be brief. That's part of the challenges that we will face, particularly as the court systems across America fall under the Department of Justice, which is going to be held under this Project 2025, which will encourage such activity and which will give a lot more leniency and leeway to those who want to continue that type of oppression and incarceration of people of African descent. They will use all those laws against us.
so let me let me throw something in here that I thought that just came to mind too. That's very important. Being here in Washington D.C., me and Sam are here. There's a tremendous amount of demonstrations that will be coming through this town. A
Yes.
tremendous amount of demonstrations, Shakara. And you
Mhm.
brought up a good point. The courts, they're going to be battles, state against feds, feds against state, all across the board. But this whole thing of for black people, this is a warning to our people. Be prepared and protect yourself. Don't get caught in a crossfire because I've seen demonstrations galore come here to the nation's capital, and many of our brothers and sisters get caught up in that and get jammed up. And I'm not telling you don't demonstrate. I mean, I'm not one that's going to demonstrate like that. But what I am saying to you is that if you're going to do that, be aware that now that you have the reptilians in power and you coming and demonstrating against them, they will move on you. That will be another thing about the street that you got to be wise to, brothers and sisters. So don't let your emotions take you into a false battle where you will be in lockdown. Just hear me. I mean, that's a warning to brothers and sisters. We need to be prepared about organizing ourselves, But there's already a ton of demonstrations coming to town. Sam knows exactly what I'm talking about. And when these demonstrations happen and they unleash the police, or they unleash, and you got not just the DC police, they got all kinds of police forces here. They're going to unleash the army, military, and everybody. And the first heads they go after is the black heads. Did you hear me? So if you in the midst of a whole lot of demonstrators saying they're fighting for this and they're fighting that, remember, that is a you trying to exercise your human right, but you could lose your life doing that, particularly under this regime. And Sam, you know exactly what I'm talking about in terms of this whole demonstration thing. So this is a warning to black people. Be careful about what you get into showing your expressions. Put that energy into organizing something to protect yourself and to build for yourself, or to hook up with some progressive nationalist or Pan-Africanist and put that energy that way, rather than going and trying to knock down the White House fence, or do some crazy thing, because they're going to be at it. And it's going to be some issues here, and even the inauguration. So y'all just be prepared and be aware, but take care of yourself. Self-reliance is the key, and self-determination. Just be very aware. Preparedness is the watchword. Be prepared. Don't step into some mess that you can't handle.
And just so y'all know, Baba, just on top of that, they already had laws out before the anti-hate law, laws about police getting harmed during demonstrations. Because D. Ray Mackinson, I believe, got caught up in that somewhere down south. It might have been in Louisiana about a year or so ago. So they always do things to shape the battlefield in a way where they can harm you legitimately, but you
Right.
can't cause harm to them.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So you're going out there executing this so-called right to free speech, where it's actually a battlefield. We got to start following other countries, because in other countries, when they go out on the streets against police, they know what it is. We don't seem to know what it is over here. We just think
Teach,
that
teach, teach, Sam. Very important.
that is like that we're just protesting and they're standing there. No, like they will kill you. That
Yes,
they will say that you had it coming in the first place.
that's right.
Well,
Simple as
that's
that.
the law. That's because we believe that the law said we have the right to protest. I think it's
Teach.
part of the First Amendment right, and that's a part of the falsehood that the
So,
law that you're talking about is going to implement. But also, Donald Trump has already said, turn the police loose, let them do their thing. So
that's
yeah,
right.
the
And,
demonstrations
so
because Philadelphia
that is
gets
important, though.
demonstrations. Yeah, Philadelphia gets demonstrations just like
Yes,
DC.
of course.
So
Well, y'all were the first capital. But anyway, no. So I was just using DC as an example,
no, but
PG,
see,
because
to
you're
Sam's
right.
point, right?
West
I
Coast,
think this
all across
conversation,
the country. You're right.
right?
Y'all are right.
And see, more deaths are coming, more demonstrations, more deaths, and then and as all of this conversation is going to where and how do we get prepared and
That's
how do
right.
we get our people prepared in
That's right.
order to address it, see, because the conversation brings it to light for those who listen, those who see it. Hopefully you gain that understanding. Those who look at the paperwork and look at the remarks that have been made, I don't care what generation you are at this point in time, your skin color is black, it's a different ball game today. It's a different ball game.
So PG, and I know Shaka,
Sorry,
while
sorry, brothers.
we
Yeah,
coming
we,
up
we,
on a
we
late time. Yeah, I know. I just want
yeah,
to
we're gonna wrap up.
let everybody know that we love y'all. We are organizing. Get with us. We are serious about this. And I just wanted to make it clear, Chief Fode couldn't stay with us, but we're not only here in the U.S., we're around the world, and we love y'all. Kumunga, we are the whirlwind. We are the whirlwind.
Give thanks, Baba. All right. So as we approach the end, we've got about 10 minutes left. Another question is in relation to the issue of reparations, which was a hot topic during the election period. I know Kamala was asked about this directly. I don't know that Trump was asked about it directly, but there are some who were celebrating the fact that he made the declaration that quote unquote African Americans basically built the country or something to that effect. There were no commitments as far as reparations is concerned. But what do you believe is going to be the trajectory on the issue of reparations under the Trump presidency.
And I'm so glad you brought that up,
Yeah.
because what Donald Trump has stated is that there should be reparations for white people because of integration, diversity, inclusion laws, and therefore he's looking to see how he can repair and replace and repay people who have been adversely affected by those laws. Those are laws of integration. Those are the laws of diversity. He actually attacked diversity, inclusion, and I forget there was a DIC, diversion, inclusion, something else. And Sam may remember there's something else. I miss it. But at the same time, that's been his thrust. He's really not put any plan or conversation and talk about we can paying people of African descent reparations for people of African descent, either here or on the continent, for the wrongs of the white of America, for those wrongs and those exploitations. So I think it's going to prove to be real interesting how the other whites respond to removing of diversity and inclusion, and therefore wanting to give money to whites who, well, you weren't a part of that number, and because you weren't, that number took your spot. You had to go someplace else. Not that you didn't have a place to go, but you had to go someplace else.
Yeah.
I think it's diversity, equality, and inclusion.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
I knew
Well,
it. I knew something.
so in terms of reparations and repatriation, I can't separate the two. Because when you start talking about reparations, we need to look at reparations globally and not just in the United States. I don't have any faith in reparations here. That's just my take, because I've studied, I've checked it out. But globally, we need to repair ourselves, and we need to tie into the global movements, the Caribbean and Africa. For an example, my reparations, what I would like to see is our right to be repaired. Part of that repair is our right to return as citizens to Africa. So when we talk reparations, we need to look at it holistically and not just so called domestically. However, you have a right to demand your reparations and repair. But if we don't pull together in unity and move together to go after what is justly ours, when we talk reparations, we're not just talking about a paycheck. We're talking about land. I'm talking about us. I'm talking about, particularly the UNIS. We're talking about land. We're talking about our right to repatriate. We're talking about our right to return as citizens, because we never gave up our citizenship. Those are the things we need to be talking about on that level. So it's a global movement. But I don't have any faith in the Trump regime or the Democratic Party. But we have a right to demand it. But to get it is another thing. And so I just wanted to make it real straight and clear. We don't change demanding reparations, but we need to look at reparations in terms of justice and restitution and repair of ourselves. How can you repair yourself when you don't control your own home? And Africa is our home. These folks in the United States that want to separate themselves from their vine and fig tree, I wish them well. But again, I don't see any future in that myself. Sam, you got a take on that? I mean, it's just us three now, us four.
I mean, as far as reparations, um, I mean, quite honestly, I don't see much potential for that. Reparations is more of a thing that you command people to make. We as Black people right now, we don't have the institutional power that is necessary to even command reparations. That is something that you would need to take at the end of a bayonet or sword or a gun, quite honestly. But as far as the Trump presidency, what that looks like in regards to reparations, with the current trifecta being installed come January, that is the executive, judicial, and the legislative, it's going to be more of a fight. I'm not going to say that it's going to be less likely, but it will be more of a fight. And the way that people have gone about reparations is more of the state level, local reparations, not commissions, that have gone to study the issue. So you had like Evanston, Illinois.
Right.
Sam, you lost your voice.
DC quiet as kept. You know, they're currently voting on some legislation now to launch a commission. You know, so stuff's still going to bubble on the local and state level, but as far as federally, I don't see much changing. That's been an issue that no president has really wanted to touch anyway. So anything Trump that does is not really surprising or a pivot away from what Biden didn't do or what Obama didn't do or even um, Clinton. So
Right.
one more point I do want to make. You know, I'm very curious as to like what action, you know, can we see on the international level when it comes to reparations. So, you know, I know that there are current commissions for that, you know, looking into damages for what's happened to our people all across the world. But I'm very interested in seeing what comes out of that now, especially this time. You know, we definitely need a lot more international cooperation to overcome a lot of the balkanization of reparations that's happened with ADOS.
All right, brothers. I'm gonna suggest we could
Okay.
conclude there regarding the extent to which the energies of African women are being corrupted by the Democratic Party at this moment in time. But that's going to have to be another subject for another time.
Yeah, well, we did
Uh,
say, Sakurai, we did say that we knew we weren't going to get it all in, but a part two is definitely
yes, sir.
coming.
Yes, sir.
So,
100%. Do stay tuned. Yeah, the Afrikan Survival Initiative roundtables will be continued to come to you, and we have one scheduled for the end of next month as well, which is supposed to be
Keep losing.
you're freezing up, Sakurai.
looking at the coalition that is backing him. Can you hear me? Sorry, did I
Yeah.
cut out there? Just to say, brothers and sisters, because I think there's some technicals happening. So let me just close out the show and say, stay tuned for more from the Afrikan Survival Initiative and these monthly roundtables coming from Jicho La Kimbunga. We look forward to you joining us next month and in the months to come. Tendai Mwali, be thankful unto the Mother, Father,
Jendai
Creative
Morai.
Life for Kozai Muzimo Mokuro. We give praises unto our great ancestors, Abibal African people. Ashe.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.